Hi, I'm Ben Llewellyn and I'm looking today at Wales and Scotland, not what makes them similar or the same, but what makes them different. In this 4-part series, I'll be looking at Wales and Scotland's identities through their languages and how radically different they are. I'll show you how since at least the Ice Age, Wales and Scotland's landscapes have formed in contrast. We will see how separate legal systems created different modern democracies. And we will delve into the Renaissance, in which Wales and Scotland took journeys which could not be further apart. If you're new here, why not subscribe so you can catch the entire series? And if you leave a like, I'd really appreciate it. One key note of their difference, which should be mentioned first and up front, is their political relations with the unions in which they're in or not at present. Cymru, or Wales, and Scotland are both leaving the European Union, this union. But they're doing it in very different ways. Scotland voted to remain in the European Union, Wales voted to leave. And this was a referendum held across the UK, and this has led to social and political tensions, which are the subject of another video. But the point is that Wales and Scotland had very different reactions to that referendum on the European Union and its expression of identity, which is quite different between these two nations. Although it could be said that the English population living in Wales did swing that vote substantially. To a degree, on that is another subject. Wales and Scotland are both presently part of this union. And again, their relationship with the United Kingdom, or the rest of the United Kingdom, is markedly different. Scotland at the present moment has a separatist government calling for its own nation. Wales has a Labour government which is proudly British. These could not be more different. They are very different in terms of identity and how they view themselves as being Welsh or Scottish. The separatists or nationalist in the Scottish Parliament lead a minority government. The Senedd is run by a Labour government elected by the people of Wales, and so it's an expression that their political will is quite different at this moment from Scotland. To say these nations are similar politically would go against the present evidence of what they have voted for. Just to be aware of that as we go forward. Wales has a prince. Scotland has a There are 4 languages spoken between Wales and Scotland. In Wales you have Welsh and English. In Scotland you have English and you have Scots and Scottish Gaelic. Now these all vary greatly by the number of people spoken. Welsh is spoken by almost 1/4 of the population and understood by around 1/3. And it's everywhere you go. Road signs, train announcements, it's everywhere you're going to go in Wales. Scotland could not be more different with Scots and Scottish Gaelic. Scottish Gaelic is spoken by about 1% of the population, and it's on the outer islands and the outer Hebrides mostly. We're talking less than 60,000 speakers. Scots, on the other hand, it is pretty much agreed that Scots is a separate language to English, but it's definitely on a continuum with English from a West Germanic position. The English spoken in Wales and Scotland is also a bit different to each other, and it's very noticeable in accent. The Glaswegian accent is going to be very different from Cardiff accent in English. But the chief thing that makes these two countries so different is the fact that Wales has a very large group of people who speak a language other than English, and that it's the dominant language in very large regions of the country, and it's used every day in the Senedd and across vast sectors of the economy. In Scotland, on the other hand, the Gaelic language is very limited to some agricultural and fishing economies in the far northwest. Scots, we don't have specific numbers on it because, again, it's hard to distinguish and to say who is speaking Scots and when as a close language, that it's difficult to say. The orthography, however, for Scottish Gaelic has left a deep imprint across all of Scotland, in which the Scottish Gaelic language has influenced place names extensively. In Wales, we do have the Welsh language, which is absolutely everywhere with place names. You can't go anywhere in Wales without running into a Welsh place name. Actually, it's really weird to find places that are in English sometimes. The largest 6 conurbations or towns or settlements in Scotland and Wales have a very different root as far as what languages they come from. In Wales, the largest settlements all come from Welsh except one. In Scotland, the largest settlements all come from different language groups. The top 3, however, do actually come from Old Welsh: Edinburgh, Glasgow, Aberdeen, but the other 3 are a mixture of other things, and this Welsh influence in the south of Scotland tends to be very limited to a specific period in time, whilst in Wales, the English influences are limited to specific periods in time. There's a specific period in the Middle Ages in which Pembrokeshire, the south of it, was influenced by Flemish, kind of a language similar to Dutch, and that morphed into English, and that deeply influenced that specific part of Wales. What makes Scotland and Wales so different as far as foreign influences is how they formed as a country. These countries are different in terms of how they formed linguistically and the culture that sprouted out of that. Now, a lot of people say that Scotland is a Celtic country. I don't really buy that completely. There's an influence that's stronger in it than England, but to say it's a Celtic country kind of ignores how it was formed. Wales is a Celtic country despite an Anglo influence, and Scotland is kind of the inverse of being an Anglo country despite a Celtic influence. There is so much history for both Wales and Scotland regarding their languages. I don't have time in this video, but we should just note that the Welsh language is so visible in Wales that there's nothing in Scotland that can even compare, and that really does give Wales a deep pronunciation of something that's remarkably different from anything that Scotland has and experiences, because their native Scot Gaelic language has been so reduced in its territorial integrity. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next episode of this series.